Are we still? There we go. We're recording in progress, and there is the chat open so that everybody I can see your questions and things. So the agenda for today is just talking about where we are with the border migration issues. Just trying to go over that a little bit, and that's then we'll open it up to questions, unless somebody else has some other agenda item they want to add. And that's what I had planned for today. So we don't have to go 20 minutes or so, and then we don't have to take the whole hour. But first, just want to welcome everybody to this border migration issues. We will try to go over what we're facing here. And I'll introduce myself. I'm Adrian Bernal, or Adrian Bernal in English, or El Maestro, as they used to call me at CNN Telemundo. And I've been a journalist for about 30 years now. I do a show right now on WRFG, which is a Pacifica station, and in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from, and well, where I'm at now. I'm from Texas. San Antonio, specifically in Austin. And so I do a show there on Saturdays from 5 to 7 and on Saturdays. And so we cover these issues all the time. I see Teresa's hands up. Teresa?
Well, just what's usual and customary. Everyone in the meeting introduces themselves as a kind of check-in before we actually get started. And there are a bunch of folks, I think I have no idea who they are, like the phone number 515, and I don't think I've met Edith. So if we could go around, I'm willing to start. Teresa Elamine, Advancing Human Rights Committee Chair, and Fannie Lou Hamer, branch organizer in Columbus, Georgia. And I'm having a great day in Columbus. It's beautiful and sunny and breezy and nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Edith?
I'm Edith Kressmer. I'm from New York City. I'm newly involved with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. I'm also a friend of Phyllis Cunningham, who came.
Okay, thank you. George.
Hi there, I'm George Friday. I'm in North Carolina in the Southern Piedmont branch of WILF. I'm also the program chair on the board. And I'm glad to be here.
Yes, she is, program chair. Philip.
Yeah, I'm Phyllis Cunningham. I'm in New York City. I am also affiliated with WILF. We don't have a chapter here. And I work on a variety of social justice issues. Okay.
Oh, welcome. All right. Philip Cole. And then Ellen Thomas.
Yeah, I'm Philip Cole, and I am a member of the San Francisco branch.
Right, welcome. Helen?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm Ellen Thomas. I live in the mountains of North Carolina. I've been with WILF for the past 2 decades, and I'm co-chair of the Disarm End Wars Committee.
Excellent. Glad you're here. Let's see, Kim Poole.
Hi, I'm Kim Poole. I'm a part of the WILF DMV branch based in Baltimore, and I'm currently in Geneva, Switzerland. It's 11:06 p.m. my time, and so different time zone, but still here.
Wow, thanks for joining us. Enjoy Switzerland. We got Joan.
Hi, Joan Goddard, San Jose, California branch, and I'm really sad that I'm going to have to leave in less than 10 minutes. So I'm glad there's a recording and I will look forward to it. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for being here just a little bit. And then we have a phone number, 515-313. Who are you? Introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? My name is Lori Jones. I hope there's not too much background noise. No. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm with the WILF Des Moines branch.
Excellent.
And I'm interested to hear what other people are saying, because I went to a meeting on the immigrant issue yesterday, and then there was also something at the forum at church too today. So I just want to follow what everybody has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And I think that's all. So I guess we'll get started. We have 10 participants. Great. My name is Adrian Bernal in English, and I'm going to speak today about the issues that we have with immigration and why do we have it and what do we do about it, or do we do nothing at all, basically. And as we know, then we're going to talk about, what we can do to fix it. And you're welcome to ask questions and then give us some more information that you may have picked up at other meetings. So we'll ask George to mute everybody real quick, and then we'll get started. So between the time that Trump left office and Biden took office, we've had approximately 10 million people, 10 million immigrants that have come across the border. And that's just an estimate that is probably not correct. And the reason is because there's a lot of people that come across the border or they come into the country with a visa. And so they just overstay their visa. A couple of years ago, it was the French or the Irish that were coming. I think it was the Irish that were coming that way. And we have a lot of Irish people. A lot of people are coming to the US. But what we get to see on TV and we hear on Fox News is everybody walking across on foot coming to the border. But there's other ways to cross the border. This issue is not particular just to the United States. It is a problem of the West. That includes the European Union. They also have problems. And in both of these locations, we have been overwhelmed. The aid groups, I'm sure you know, have been overwhelmed trying to feed these people. A lot of times they are migrants. A lot of times they are asking for asylum. But they are here, and we'll go over why they're here as well. And the places like Texas, of course, are overwhelmed, and they're taking extraordinary measures to close their border. And now people are going as far as California, where they can just walk through. There was a video that I saw today from Fox News, and it had people coming down this mountain. They look like little ants, but they're coming over any way they can. Now, the causes of it, if you really want to go back to a very broad definition, I would say it all goes back to the Monroe Doctrine, manifest destiny, American exceptionalism, this whole idea that the United States has a divine right to be here and that God wants the U.S. to take over the whole continent, as we saw with the Monroe Doctrine, which is now 200 years old. Add to that neoliberalism, which is something that we saw starting back when the coup happened in Chile in 1973, and what was called Chicago Boys. I'm sure you're all aware of that. That a new form of neoliberalism where you buy everything, nothing is given to you. We see the IMF, that's their philosophy. And many a country has been wrecked with the IMF and International Monetary Fund. They'll come in and they'll give loans to countries, and then they'll say, but before we give you this, you're going to have to cut back on healthcare, cut back on what you're paying teachers, increase the price of gas, things like that. So basically, and that's what's going on. And this whole idea that you have to do what we say or else. And I'm sure probably you all have heard of or read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That was by John Perkins. He was a person that went through and was actually, his job was to threaten new presidents in Latin America and say, you will cooperate with us or else we'll find ways of getting rid of you. And there are so many ways to do that. You may have remembered the quote from General Richardson. She is the leader of Southcom. And there's been a couple of occasions when she is gushing about the amount of resources that are in Latin America and how much we need to get to those resources because otherwise our the people that are against us, our adversaries, they want them. So the idea that these countries should be able, could sell their resources to the highest bidder is not even in the mind of these folks. They are convinced that because it's on this continent, that we should get it, we being the United States. Also, we see the military coups. Another reason why people are coming to this country are the military coups, which have been sponsored by the U.S. For example, Chile in 1973, Manuel Zelaya in Honduras in 2009, and the coup in Bolivia in 2019. I was at CNN for a couple of those. I was at CNN when Zelaya was deposed. And that was CNN, Telemundo, CNN, and CNN en Español. The coup in Bolivia in 2019, that was over lithium. And you might recall Elon Musk saying, we'll coup anyone we want. That is the mentality of one of the richest people in the world, an American. That we're going to get your stuff whether you want it or not. The idea of selling it for a fair price, that's out the window. And they did have a coup, as I'm sure you all know about that, when they got rid of Evo Morales. However, the following year, the people put Evo Morales' party right back into power. So the people do have a bit of control, but the U.S. is doing its best to try to fight it on that. Another reason that people are coming to this country is local corruption. My job is an interpreter, so I speak Spanish for people who can't speak English. And I met a man just the other day who came from Venezuela. He was an engineer, and he living in a small town in Venezuela, his wife's town, and he set up a nice firm, but he was only able to do it for 2 or 3 years. And it wasn't, of course, the government that went after him, not the Maduro government, not the national government, but it was the local government. And his job was to build schools for their town. And he found that everybody wanted their cut. And when he reported it to the prosecutor, he reported it to the newspaper, it got back to those people and it got worse and he had to leave Venezuela. So that's another reason why people are coming to this country. It's just corruption, local corruption. And there are efforts to get rid of corruption. If you're following what's happening in Mexico with AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, he says that corruption is swept out the way you sweep stairs from the top down. Because what happens is that when you have corruption at the top, then everybody in the back or in the bottom says, oh, well, I want to get some of that too. And so corruption starts to creep down. And that's one of the countries that I've seen that's getting rid of corruption. Although we do hear very negative things about AMLO But I'm open for questions about that because I have been following him for several years now. He will be leaving office. He only has 24 weeks left in office, but his party looks like they're going to win and will have the first female president of Mexico. Another reason why people are coming across the border is that the United States cannot afford, well, this goes back to the United States is doing. The United States cannot afford a example where a socialist government is doing well. And that was the case in Bolivia. The IMF even said Bolivia was leading the countries in Latin America with how well they were doing. Their GDP was high. Another country is Mexico. Mexico gets a lot of bad press from the United States, and their country is almost 100% anti-AMLO because they're run by the oligarchs. But the reason there is because AMLO has chosen for Mexico to be energy independent. They built a new refinery. They bought the other half over here in Deer Park in the United States, and they've been doing a lot to make Mexico energy independent. Because Mexico, during the neoliberal times, was selling oil to other countries and then buying gasoline. And he said that's like growing oranges and buying orange juice. So that's what's happening there with those economies, those countries. And the United States just cannot stand to see a good example of a country that's done well, and it will do everything to sink them. Another reason why people are coming is because drugs are a big business, and the DEA and the CIA have been enabling it. Now, you probably know that already, but I'll just go over it in case you don't. But the CIA and the DEA, well, we didn't have one then, but they were bringing in what they called sticky bricks. They were bringing in opium from Vietnam and the area. You remember the photograph of in Afghanistan of the U.S. guarding poppy fields. And as an interpreter, I have talked to people, or I have been interpreting for people, and they were being interrogated by the DEA. And I've heard them say that people in government, they participate in the drug dealing because it's very profitable. Of course, you know the case of Juan Orlando Hernandez in Honduras in 2022. He left office and he went straight to jail, and he's waiting sentencing. Of course, also you have Noriega in Panama in 1998. He was working for the CIA, and it was George H.W. Bush that led the invasion to take him out. And I think it was 2 weeks of bombing Panama. They totally went over the top, but that had more to do with the Panama Canal. I was at CNN as well during that time. And then the other reason is that the cartels are making a lot of money getting people into the U.S. I've heard that people come in, they might pay $10,000 to come into the U.S., to these cartels. And of course, they are always looking for ways to make more money. They selling drugs and prostitution, things like that. You may know that the cartels, the major ones on this continent, have expanded for some time now into Europe. So they're expanding. But certainly, since they can get drugs into the country, it's easy for them to get the people into the country as well. There was an interesting video that I saw from a rancher. He's 73 years old in Arizona, and he has cameras all over. And you can see the people, and he's reported this, men in fatigues with backpacks walking single file through his property to get into the United States. These are not asylum seekers. Who knows what they are, but they're all carrying backpacks, and they have a contact in the U.S. Okay, they're not just showing up. So there's a lot of stuff going on that they don't tell us about, and a lot of complicity as well. And then again, another reason why we have it is because it benefits the U.S. to have cheap labor. They need cheap labor in the growing fields and also in the poultry farms. Again, I've seen a lot of people that have been injured in the poultry farms because they do repetitive tasks and they get hurt. And of course, another reason that we have these folks is because it benefits the military industrial complex. They remember the Fast and Furious, where the U.S. Supposedly was shipped a bunch of weapons and was going to tag them to see which of the cartels got them. A lot of people question whether that was the real thing going on or not, or if it was just a way to get a bunch of weapons down there, which of course they got the weapons and they disappeared. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who used to be a guerrilla fighter, he said it at when he was talking to the World Economic Forum. He said that the United States is only interested in building walls and bombs. And I think that pretty much covers what's going on with that. That's the answer. As has been said before, if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. And of course, you do have the Haitian gangs, where we have been giving them weapons. How they get them, I'm not going to say who's giving it to them, but they're getting them from the U.S. and they're high-powered weapons. There's a lot of things going on in Haiti. We don't have time to go into that, but that's another issue. And then, of course, one of the problems that we have is that the United States, as Christopher Hedges has said, is a dying empire. 200 years old plus, but we're dying. We show all of the signs of that. And one of the things that points to that is that we're stealing from other countries. You remember that Venezuela was getting some oil tankers because of the embargoes, and the United States intercepted them and took them into a port in Houston or New Orleans, I forget which, and they pumped the oil out. So we're stealing oil. We're become pirates, so basically. The other example was the airplane that was taken by Argentina. There was a Venezuelan airplane that was being used to transport cargo. It landed in Argentina, but then a judge kept it there and kept the crew there for 6 months. Then they released them. And then with the new president in Argentina, they transferred the plane to the United States. I mean, that is pretty much theft, but they have the cover of saying they're a country under sanctions. So if I said a problem, remember when they said it's the economy stupid? I think it's the sanctions stupid. We've been sanctioning Cuba for over 50 years. We have sanctions against Nicaragua, Venezuela. We sanction people, and the U.S. feels it has the right to sanction anyone they want to, which is a problem. Now we'll go into the solutions for just a bit, and then we'll stop. So the Cato Institute, which is a right-wing libertarian think tank, has for many years now, over 10 years, saying that if we opened the borders, it would benefit the United States. That because immigrants come and they build businesses, they want to move forward, to grow up, and they will build businesses, and it's really good for the economy. Plus, they pay taxes and Social Security. So that's what the Cato Institute says. Another thing that we need to do is the Dreamers, which are the children that came with their parents. They don't have papers, and they need papers. And everybody needs work permits and a driver's license. As an interpreter, I see a lot of people that drive with no driver's license. There was a lady, a mom, that had to pay $1,000. This is $1,000 plus maybe $1,300 every time she gets stopped, and she already had 3 driving without a license. And she explained to the judge, I have kids, I need to take them places. So that is another issue, another problem. We don't see any help. The House said they would not consider the Senate bill to try to solve the problem. But we do have people that are doing things on a local level. Here in the U.S., we have or here in Atlanta, we have a U.S. Organization called GLAR, GLAHR, which is the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights. And they're fighting this bill, HB 1105. They are going to have a rally at the Capitol on May 1st. On May 2nd, they're walking to the governor's mansion. And on May 3rd, they're going to be doing community outreach, going to different neighborhoods and informing them about this bill. And basically, it's a bill that would make everyone in Georgia follow the 287G law that pretty much deputizes local law enforcement to become to work for the immigration department. Excuse me. And this bill would make these municipalities report on the where these folks are from and if they have papers or not. So that's what's happening in Georgia. And then, like I said, we started the talk. It's like, what can we do, or do we do nothing? And that refers to the thought by many people that the U.S. is headed for a very steep depression. It's going to be worse than the Great Depression, and the dollars will be worthless. Some people say that's going to happen between 2 and 10 years. And why, you might be wondering? Well, it has a lot to do with the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now they've been joined by Iran, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Ethiopia. So right now, the BRICS hold 32% of the world's GDP compared to 30% of the GDP by G7 countries. So this group is now bigger than what we would call the West. And they are very much interested in destroying the dollar, basically, because their countries have all been oppressed at some point by the U.S. and by using the dollar, using the IMF and the World Bank. So if we do nothing, the economy will crash, and we will be carrying wheelbarrows of dollars around. Because if you think about it, we've been printing money like crazy since 2008, when we had the debt debacle with the banking industry and the housing. And we had quantitative easing 1, 2, and 3, where they were literally just printing money, billions of dollars. And there's no goal to, or there's nothing to stand for that money. So it's paper money, basically. So that's a lot. And basically, that's what I've got. I think that's the reason that we have all this immigration has to do with sanctions, and has to do with the way that we treat other countries unfairly. We make them do what we want them to do, or else. And we see the result. Like they say, the chickens have come home to roost. So with that,
Thank you.
I'll take your.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Teresa.
I am so happy that you are the convener. I just want to give Phyllis and Edith a special welcome because we're in the process of restarting the New York branch. So it's good to know you're there. We have several other members, Linda Ridley, Dr. Linda Ridley, who's a new member, and she's kind of agreed to be the branch organizer. So I'll make sure that we can get together as a small group soon to talk about that. But I did ask Adrian to do this for us today because he does have a lot of experience. The other thing that Adrian didn't mention is that he is involved with the School of America's Watch. And as many of you know, Wilf has been a serious seriously engaged in ending the School of Americas, which changed its name to WINSEC. And some of what Adrian is talking about is directly related to that. And I didn't realize that the Southern Command is headed by a woman, because I met the previous general who was over the Southern Command here in Columbus, Georgia, where I live, at what used to be Fort Benning, which has now been renamed. So I thought, in terms of the Advancing Human Rights Committee, it's very important that we understand this is part of our overarching theme of human rights and racial justice. This issue committee has been focused on racial justice and human rights as a kind of two-pronged effort. So we have 3 other working groups, Phyllis and Edith. We have the Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty. We have the UN Decade Reparations Working Group, and we have a Housing Justice Working Group. So this committee, Border and Migration Justice, is another part of that whole human rights in terms of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the right to housing, the right to be able to cross borders when the borders cross you, etc. So that's why this working group is so important. And we made a point that people who have experience with migration and who come from a culture that is most impacted by this issue in terms of the U.S. southern border. But as Adrian pointed out, there's a Canadian border, and there are all kinds of borders on the Atlantic and the Pacific where people come in and out of this country with a lot more ease than they do from the global South. So that's the kind of racial justice component. So I wanted to give that backdrop to put BMJ, Border and Migration Justice, in the context of the larger Advancing Human Rights Committee. And we do tend to do these meetings for only 1 hour. So we do try to have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. So I think we'll open it up now for any questions and comments. Who was the person who said that the issue was brought up at their church? Was that you, Laurie, in Des Moines? The 515 number, is that Laurie Jones? Because the important thing,
Hello.
oh yeah, good. Because the important thing is to find out what branches are doing. And so several of us are here from branches. Metro Atlanta, Adrian, George Friday, Southern Piedmont, me, Fannie Lou Hamer, Philip Cole is from San Francisco. So Laurie, I'm calling on you to say what you were starting to talk about with your church and the other places where you've been hearing about this issue.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay, because I'm outside right now. I'm bussing around today. Hold on just a minute. I just got a bunch of material on Friday about how unwelcoming, and I'm just fascinated with the Adrian's talk, and I want to. This will be recorded, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's okay. That's good, because I want to listen to it again. I wanted to take a few notes. I guess mostly Iowa is has become very unwelcoming for migrants. It's just a big issue, and of course it's always a big issue when there's it's during the election year. It's one of the biggest issues, and it's just everybody's so negative about it. But anyway, I was looking for my notes that I took yesterday, but I'm not able to. Am I able to get this out maybe a little bit later?
Sure. If we can find them, yeah, we'll go to somebody else.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Anybody have any? I just want to say, in addition to Teresa, I am with the School of America's Watch. I'm on the committee, but I'm also with Veterans for Peace, and we've started a chapter or restarted chapter here in Atlanta, chapter 125. So I work with all of these organizations. Yes, go veterans. Questions? Anybody have any other questions about why they're unwelcoming us? So, as Iowa just said, Lori. I know I went through a lot of stuff real fast. I just wanted to get it all out there.
Well, I think in terms of talking about what this working group can do, the work has to be done for all of these issue committees. And I think George can speak to this as program committee chair. It has to be done really branch by branch, which is why it's so important for those of us who are in branches to work together. See, in Georgia, Metro Atlanta, and Fannie Lou Hamer will work together on this issue because the state legislation that comes up, see, migrants are being attacked at every level. We have the federal situation, but we also have the state and the local situation. But Phyllis, I am so happy. Phyllis and I are SNCC together. And she's reminding me, and I need you to tell me more about it. So I did drop my number in the chat. So Phyllis remembers me from SNCC. And so that's going way back. So Phyllis, we do need to talk. So Phyllis has her hand up, so I'll shut up. Thank you, Phyllis. So happy.
Hi, Teresa. Yes, I wanted to know, you mentioned that there was somebody in New York who was in the process of convening a chapter of WILF in New York City. Could you tell me, I know you said Linda, and I'm wondering if it's what her last name is.
You may not know her. She's a very new member, but I have the list. And what I am doing, Phyllis, is hopefully going to be the Membership Development Committee chair if I run for that seat and get that office. But the current Membership Development Committee is kind of being shepherded by Jan Quarterman. So Jan Quarterman knows that Linda and I are working on building the New York branch. And now that we have you and Edith, what we're trying to do is put together a kind of organizing committee. So that would be the first step. So if we can get 3 or 4 people on the organizing committee, then we can get the other lifetime members, because there are a whole bunch of lifetime members in New York. Are you a lifetime member?
I'm not a lifetime member. I remember I was a member years and years ago until the local group just dissolved. And so I'm not a lifetime member. I've only been a member for the last couple of years. I mean, sending in dues and things like that. But I am not a lifetime member. But I'm just thinking about all the things. I mean, we work on, against nuclear war and weapons. Edith and I were affiliated with the Veterans for Peace and are there on their everything that they're involved in. And certainly working with HALT solitary confinement, and our city council just passed a law against solitary confinement. We had a state law, but it was never in operation, and we've got it now for the city. And now we're involved in a number of, Edith and I have been involved in a number over the years. And we had an organization called the Granny Peace Brigade. There were 8, there were about 30, we had about 30 members, but unfortunately we've aged out. Many people have died, and some are in assisted living, and others are, involved very much right now with the Colombia and with the Gaza, Israel Gaza thing. But anyway, I'll be quiet because we only have an hour. Sorry.
Well, Phyllis, we're SNCC. So what you're reflecting in this meeting is this culture of SNCC, because I'm still very active, just like you. I turned 75 last year. I'll be 76 this year.
85.
I know, because I was one of the younger ones.
Yeah.
But we need to talk, Phyllis, and George has your email. So I'll email you, but you can call me at the number I just dropped in the chat. But the key thing right now, Adrian, I think, since I think everybody here just wants to work on the issue, I would like for us to hear from Kim Poole. It's late at night where she is, but she's in Geneva, and she was there for the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, which is the important work associated with the UN Decade reparations work. So Kim, if you're still awake, can you come off of mute and tell us about your week in Geneva?
Absolutely. It's 11:43, so I've still got lots of energy. This Permanent Forum on People of African Descent brought together over 1,000 global African people and Afro descendants, including those from CARICOM countries that are here facing some of those same border migration issues that are being discussed tonight. If you notice inside of the group chat, I asked, why is Haiti different? Why is that another issue? When you did your original presentation, you said that Haiti was another issue. I would definitely like to submit to this discussion that Haiti be included into this discussion with intention. When they crossed the border, there were no state welfare programs that were overwhelmed, and they put them on a plane and sent them back immediately. And so I think that discussing what that looks like, and that's really I'm really passionate about that. Haiti was here at the forum in Geneva, but this forum in particular here in Geneva is focused on looking at reparatory justice, cultural recognition, and they've decided that there will be a second decade for people of African descent that will be launched next year. And there's going to be a conference at the end of this year that talks about reparatory justice. And I had the privilege of reaching out to WILF Geneva, to the office, and hosting a side event that spoke specifically to preserving identity, looking at cultural genocide, and what erasure looks like for African Americans here. And so I can post a PDF link and some images inside of this WhatsApp group chat. You know that they're calling it the eradication or erasure of the Stay Woke movement, and that would include us all here on this call. When I think about the importance of teaching history and race, I think that sometimes we take critical race theory out of context, because really it's about teaching the whole story. When I think about this coming election and Donald Trump, they have an agenda that is fascist. They're literally creating banned book lists across the country. They don't want young people to remember what happened in this country so that they can recreate a situation that is honestly already well on its way. And so we discussed that a little during our side event. And it's important for us to be the life and to be the truth. And so we talked about not just what we're against, telling that we're against what is happening in this new coming of fascism in the US, but we're also talking about what the best of us looks like. What is the best example of teaching our history and culture and bringing awareness and recognition to the history and work of global African people, not dividing our narratives. I feel just as connected to those on the border, Black and Brown, as I do to those that are in Palestine and in Gaza. And we can no longer disconnect these narratives. At our permanent forum on people of African descent, we talked about the importance of this holistic story. And so, again, I'll post this PDF inside the WhatsApp group chat, and even a few images as well. Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Teresa, to talk a little about that.
Oh,
I look
Kim, I
forward
love you so much. You
Thank
know,
you so much.
Kim Poole, with Teaching Artists Institute based in Baltimore. She's still in her 30s, Phyllis. She's still in her 30s. You know how important that is. And she's in Baltimore, and she joined Will on February 16th, just a couple of months ago. And she is already internationally connecting all of us to the important work she's been doing for years. So, Adrian, I think what will be good at this point is for our program committee chair, George, to tell us about the upcoming triannual. But Adrian, it's your meeting, so don't let me
Okay.
take over. Adrian, you say
Yeah,
what should go next.
I just wanted to say that sounds great, but I wanted to say one thing first. Thank you, Kim, for that, for noting that. I see your question in the chat. Why is Haiti another issue? And because Haiti is such a big issue. Haiti has been abused by the United States since its inception, since it got its freedom. And Haiti was made to pay reparations to France for the money they would have made off of the backs of the Haitians. And as you all know, there's what's known as the core group, which is the United States, France, Canada, a couple of other groups, including Mexico and Brazil. And they have taken it upon themselves to rule Haiti and to say to pretty much control their politics there. Also, the reason I say it was another story is because of the gangs that are there. We did a story recently on my radio show where we read the top 10 wealthiest people in Haiti. And all of these wealthy people, huge, the owner of the telecom business and everything, they're the ones that are fueling or they're the ones that pay for the gangs because these 10 families want to control Haiti. And the reason I said it's another story is because then you've got the U.S. using the United Nations in order. Just today, I saw where Guterres said we need to have an armed invasion of Haiti. Please support it. And we just do not believe that that's a good idea. The Black Alliance for Peace has been totally against that because they believe, as well as other local governments, that Haitians should decide who is going to lead them. So that's why I said it was a different story, because there's just so much to get into Haiti. And you were saying, there was a quote about how when the Haitians were coming over, you recall that they were agents on horseback that looked just like they were whipping them. That came up recently in a piece. And also, they changed the law so that Haitians would not have to come over. They would just be able to apply from Haiti. They did the same thing for a couple of other countries. Venezuela was one, Nicaragua. It's like, just stay there and fill out this app, and then we'll you can come over. But of course, you have to be able to afford the ticket to come over. And also another thing about Haiti was that there was a point where Haitians were shipped off to Guantanamo before, when they were coming over. And there's talk about shipping them to Guantanamo again. So just horrific stuff. That's why I said Haiti is a different subject. We could talk a whole 20 minutes on that alone. And thanks for that. I think I will next month. So George, up to you.
Well, Adrian, the thing of it is looking at the global South in particular and the migration. And Haiti is a particular issue, but you also have the Jamaicans, you have other African countries, and so many of them are in Stewart in that detention center. So the people who speak English at that detention center, which is only about 45 minutes from where I live, they are the African descendants. So we can look at Haiti in that context because there are plenty of groups in New York and elsewhere who are working on how Haitians are treated differently. So in terms of how Cuban migrants get treated because of the embargo, etc. So we can look at the global South in the justice context, taking in Haiti and taking in everything of the US policies in that way. But George, can you update us on the triennial and what's going to be happening there?
I'll do my best on that. I wanted to make another announcement, and I'll do that after talking about the Congress. So we are about to have, beginning May 29th, online, virtually, there will be the 35th Triennial Congress. The theme is Water on the Front Lines for Peace, and it is virtual. There is a registration fee. Currently, that registration fee, early registration, is $55. And you'll see that I'll put in the chat the link to register. There will be quite a comprehensive program during the Congress. It will be on the website that I think I'm also sharing, the same website. When you go to the website to register, if you look to your right, I think, looking at your laptop as I'm doing now, you'll see different areas connected to the Congress, the homepage, the schedule, and on the schedule, you'll see the presentations and workshops and speakers and whatnot that will occur. And then you'll be able to make some decisions about how you'd like to spend your time during the Congress. So it begins on Wednesday. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and ends on Sunday, May 29th to June 2nd. The second thing you'll see when I'm putting in the chat now is the, so the first link is for the Congress. The second link I just put out is to register for tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern. There will be the Advancing Human Rights Umbrella Zoom. Teresa earlier spoke about the Advancing Human Rights Committee that she chairs and the 4 working groups that are part of that. This is one of those working groups. Tomorrow night's meeting is the umbrella meeting. It's all of advancing human rights, including ending mass incarceration and the death penalty, including housing justice, and including the UN Decade for People of African Descent and reparations. That's tomorrow night at 8, and the links are there. Thanks.
Well, thank you, George. I appreciate you making that announcement for me. But at the meeting tomorrow night, we will do a little bit of a history on the leadership of AHR, and we're getting ready to make sure that the transition in 2025, when I plan to step away as chair, is going to be a smoother transition than in the past. So in addition to the working group reports, we're going to start developing our vision for increasing engagement in the overall Advancing Human Rights Issue Committee. So I'll probably drop something out about the agenda on tomorrow morning so that people understand the importance of being at the meeting at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for the whole meeting. It's the meeting of the whole, Phyllis. So it's the meeting of the whole Advancing Human Rights Committee, which includes all of the working groups. And you may be able to meet Linda Ridley at that meeting. And Kim, could you please tell people on your Cameroon travels, are you headed to Cameroon from Geneva?
So, yes, Mama Teresa, that is the goal. We're still fundraising. You may have gotten an email from Darian DeLu acknowledging the invitation that I received from our international president, Miss Sylvie Ndongmo. They are having their 10th anniversary celebration, but also there are 19 sections in Africa of WILF, and they're all coming together to do a peace conference. Cameroon, we all know that they are in the middle of local civil wars, and the peace conference it's significant that they're holding it there, and that for 10 years they've been doing this work in peace and freedom. And so they've invited me to speak at that convening, and they did so while we were in New York at the permanent forum. I'm sorry, not the permanent forum, the Commission on the Status.
CSW.
Mhm.
The CSW 68. Well, Kim, you know, things are pretty tight down here on this end, but the Southern Anti-Racism
Really?
Network has a meeting on Tuesday evening, so we'll see what we can do. But if you could, hopefully you got good credit cards, because it may be that we're going to be retiring your debt when you return, because the letter from Darian was absolutely beautiful. And I will write her and let her know when I read her appeal, it was just so important. You know, we're just up against such a tight schedule here in terms of the ability to raise the money. But the letter was a beautiful letter. And hopefully there's a way to do Cash App and respond. So if you could let me know your Cash App. So I'm on Cash App, so we might be able to do some things that way. But you know, I told you my commitment was 100. And so I'm hoping there'll be a bunch of other 100s out there. But you have to keep letting us know how we can send the money to you directly.
Well, I appreciate anything that you can give. I certainly feel like this is a spirit-led journey. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't on the schedule, but I'm following spirit because I know that it's important for this work and my role in it. I did have a conversation today with Miss Tina from our sister city branch in Philadelphia, and they're very excited and interested in supporting as well. And so Miss Tina has already sent 300 USD. And so I know Miss Lucy Murphy also sent out the email. It looked like over 1,000 people in that email chain. And so I was really appreciative of that. And so I just think that it's really about us embodying what I call biomimicry. We are that water, and each drop is enough to make a difference and change the tide.
Love you. And so we're at the close of our meeting, Adrian. So I'm just reminding people that these meetings are held on the third Sunday of each month at 5 p.m. And the next meeting will be May 19th. And that is El Hajj Malik Shabazz, or Malcolm X. That is his birthday that day. And I always think it's wonderful to be able to take some political action on the birthday of our prophet, Malcolm X. who warned us of these days. And so, yeah, that's when the meeting is, May 19th. Does that still work for you, Adrian?
Yes, that's good for me.
5 p.m.
5
So
p.m.
George, you have the recording. If you could make sure it gets out along with the chat. We love you so much, George, for
Thank you.
supporting AHR
No problem.
in this way.
And thank you all for showing up.
All right. Have a great rest of your
meeting, 10
evening.
people, 10 people. That's kind of the record for BMJ for a while. Thank you.
All right.
Let's get it up. We'll
Good
see you on
night.
next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Call me, Phyllis, call me.